or DL in North Carolina. D, what's going on? What do you have for me today, pal?
How you doing there, doggy?
All right, D, nice to talk to you. What's on your mind? Let me hear.
Looking forward to that trivia in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna try to win something this year.
There you go. Monday, we're raring to go. We're looking forward to it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let me hear.
Big Tomlin fan, but listen, he was forced to fire Arians. Bill Cowher fired Ron Earhart after we lost to the Cowboys in '96. Tomlin needs to fire Joey Porter and Carnell Lake. Both used to play for the Steelers because the linebackers and the DBs were awful at times this year. Even the games we won, they were too close to inferior teams. Now, should Tomlin be fired? But he should be brought in the office and say, Mike, when you said what you said to Tony Dungy the night we played Baltimore, you were looking ahead. And the players do that. They follow your lead. Last year after the AFC Championship game, Mike Mitchell, who needs to go back to Carolina, he's awful.
Yeah.
And Bud Dupree saying, well, we wasn't prepared for the flea flicker. Well, Mike Mitchell, you're the last line of defense. You have no business at the line of scrimmage anyway. You're the last line of defense. These were Tomlin players. Ben has talked after games, and I like Ben, but some things he doesn't have to volunteer information. So I'm looking at Dan Rooney. Was it Art or Dan?
It's Dan Rooney the third. Dan Rooney the third. Yeah, go ahead. It might be Art. It might be Art Rooney. I think it is Art Rooney. I think it's Art Rooney the third. Go ahead.
But when does he say enough is enough, Mike? This is not our franchise. We don't roll like this. We know we live in a social media age. We ain't got to be like New England. Not everybody's going to be like Belichick and don't talk to the media, which works for Belichick. Be yourself, but have discipline. I've seen no other team in the NFL, 31 teams, and I'm a diehard Steeler. Players talk the way they talk, looking forward to playing other teams. I don't
very un-Steeler. It's very 100%. It's very un-Steeler-like for them to do that. You're right. He did make that comment about New England to Dungy. That's Tomlin. They were obviously very chirpy last week, and I think it did come back to bite them in the rear end. A, they were not ready early, 21-0. B, I think it lit a little fire under the Jaguars. You know, they didn't disrespected us. We beat them the first time. That game didn't count, which is stupid. So I think that really hurt them some. So I do agree with you 100% with that scenario. Timmy in Atlanta, Mad Dog Unleashed. Tim, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, doggy. Now, you know I'm a diehard Steeler fan, as I've been calling you here in the past football season. But I gave Tomlin till this year, with this squad, he had to make the Super Bowl minimum. So he didn't. So in my book, he should be gone. But the main reason he should be gone is this, dog. 4th down and 1. And you go a sweep right when you've been stopped all day long.
That was a terrible. Right. You cannot defend that. Now, the other 4th and 1 in the second half, Tim, that should have been a first down. That was a penalty. So, I mean, you could tell me that you can't count on a penalty to get a first down. That was an obvious one. He held him. He ripped his shirt off. That was a bad. Right. That was a bad non-call. But the first 4th and 1 in the first half, you are 1,000% correct. That was a bad call in that sequence. They did not do that. I did not understand that. Go right up the middle to get the 1 yard. You're 1,000% correct. Go ahead.
So you, as a head coach, you supposed to know that a call is coming through. You should have been like, no, Haley. Enough of your nonsense. With Haley is the problem. If they re-sign him, I'm boycotting every Steeler game until this man is gone.
You know, they did score. Listen, I don't want to defend Todd Haley, and I know Roethlisberger doesn't like him, Tim. They did score 42 points in the game.
But come on, doggy, you know a lot of those throws that with Antonio Brown, those were desperation passes. Let's be honest. They were desperation passes. Those were things like Ben just finally said, enough, let's go for it. But my thing is that Tomlin should have stepped in. He doesn't step in when there are bad calls and say override calls.
Absolutely right. No, we understand that. I mean, he could have done that on 2 occasions. He's got the headset on. He can say, we're not running that play. That's why you have the headset on to begin with. So I am with you 100%, especially on the first one. The onside kick, we can go on here forever and argue the onside kick. I myself don't have a major problem with the onside kick there. No, a lot of people do. I did not. Jay in Florida, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Jay, good afternoon. Your turn. How are you today?
Hey, Chris. I'm 57, born and raised in Pittsburgh, been a Steeler fan my whole life. I've probably watched every play during the Tomlin era, and I think the biggest problem Steeler fans have with Tomlin is every year you've got a couple of games where they lose and they shouldn't have lost. I mean, you can go on websites that say, Tomlin bad losses, and every year there's 2 or 3 games. This year, and I think it affects where they seed in the playoffs. Like this year, they went to Chicago, had no reason.
Yeah, but the bad loss. I understand. Now, listen, Jay,
they would have been number 1 seed, even though they lost to the Patriots.
Jay, you can't go back to the Bear game in Week 3 when they had the Patriots game 1. That you can't do. I mean,
that's my point. Every year there's bad games. Last year they had 3 bad games. They went to the Dolphins and lost horribly, which affected the seeding in the playoffs.
I understand. And Belichick,
I think that's and people are just kind of fed up with it. It's been years and years of these bad losses, and after a while, you're like, yes, this weekend was a bad loss. Like it's just another peg in the board of bad losses.
I get it. I have trouble doing it this year. You did go. I thought they go 13-3. I believe that was their record. I can double check it. I don't think they did beat the Browns in that last game of the year, and it didn't mean anything. I cannot. If they beat the Patriots, which they should have beaten them. Maybe a better call on the last play. Maybe last couple sequences. They had a 24-16 lead. I can't kill them for losing. They lost the Bears in Week 3. Now, listen, Bear loss is a bad loss. I mean, they lost the Bears in Jacksonville the first 5 games of the season. They barely beat the Colts. I understand it. But when you go out there and you have the Patriots beat in Week 16 or Week 15 and you let that game get away, I can't go to Week 3 and, if they didn't lose the Bears, then the Patriot game wouldn't count. I can't do that. That's not fair. Here's Brent in Ohio, and he's with us here, and he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Brent, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have for me?
I'm well. Thanks for taking the call. Mike Tomlin cannot lose his job for the simple fact of you now have a vacancy that you have to fill at an upgrade, and there's no upgrade available.
That's fair, too. I mean, you can fire him, but who are you going to hire to replace him? That's a good point.
I mean, I would take the job for $1 million a year, but I'm not an upgrade.
Yeah, I get it.
I'd much rather have Mike Tomlin, right?
Who was on that staff? Is there anybody on that staff who is a prospective head coach that everybody's raving about? I don't know that. I'd have to look. I don't know that. That's not going to be Todd Haley. That's for sure. Is there anybody on that staff that you're aware of that could get that job from a standpoint of coaching? Cornell Lake, Todd Haley, Randy Fitchner, Keith Butler, Richard Mann, John Mitchell, Mike Munchak. You want to give the job to Munchak? I mean, played for the Oilers for 100 years and was, he's in a Hall of Fame. I mean, you can go there if you wish. He was a head coach at one point if you wanted to go to Mike Munchak. But you have to have that. You're right on the one point, Brent. You need a replacement before you get rid of the head coach. You're right about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Munchak's maybe not a horrible option if you want to gamble and say we may be retooling.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know. He's not a Steeler. He's an Oiler. I don't know if they would go in that scenario, to be honest with you. Or he's a Titan. Wherever. Let's see. Where did Munchak play most of his career? Let's double check that too. I don't think they would. Again, the basic point is 100% right. If you're going to fire a coach, who are you going to replace him with? Who's the new guy? You got to have somebody in mind. Oilers and Titans for Munchak, right? Is that what it was? You have to have a guy in mind. Munchak, let's just double check it. Hall of Fame, let's read it to you. He went to Penn State. Oilers for 82 to 93. All AFC 7 times, 9 Pro Bowls. Well, I mean, he's not a Steeler. But a hell of an offensive lineman. They got a good offensive line. You could go there if you wish. Dan in Montana, Mad Dog Unleashed. Danny, welcome. How are you today?
Well, how you doing today, pal?
Hello, Dan. Nice to talk to you. What's going on? What do you have for me?
Okay, we've been listening to you guys going across Montana, Shine, to the other guys, but we have a question. I'm a huge Vikings fan.
Yeah.
How do you feel about if they make it to the Super Bowl,
right?
Would there be home field advantage for the Vikings?
Yeah, I think that, I thought maybe not because it's such a corporate event, but maybe the idea that the Viking fan will have more disposable money because he doesn't have to travel and he doesn't have to go find a hotel, and so he has more disposable money to buy tickets on the market. So maybe there will be more Viking fans there because he can add money to the ticket because he doesn't have to get on a plane. He doesn't have to spend 3 days in a hotel. So as a result, he can spend an extra $500-$600 on a ticket, which would make you think there'd be more Viking fans in the building than any other team's fans. So, yeah, I think that's the most fascinating Super Bowl. I think a New England at Minnesota, Patriots and Vikings Super Bowl with Brady trying to win a road game to win Super Bowl number 6 is fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating. Now watch it be Jacksonville, Philadelphia. Here's Tom in Columbus, Mad Dog Unleashed. Tommy, welcome. Your turn. How are you today?
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Fine, Tom. Thank you. What's on your mind now? What do you have for me?
I just want to talk about these Steeler fans. I'll tell you, Mike Tomlin, if Pittsburgh fires Mike Tomlin, he will be unemployed about 90 seconds.
I agree with that.
And the Browns would be happy to have him.
You have to be careful, though. You have to be careful of saying, well, he'll get a job in 5 seconds, so why fire him? Sometimes, and same thing for Harbaugh, John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Sometimes an organization just needs a change. That's all. It doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean he's not a good coach. It just means that he's been here too long and he needs a change. So whether they change or not remains to be seen. They won't. Noel Harbaugh, but you're overall correct, Tom. He would get a job in 5 minutes. No question about it. Go ahead.
I hope they fire him.
Well, who do you want to replace him with?
I don't care. I'm a Browns fan.
Oh, you want the Browns? I understand that. What would the Browns do? Would they go hire him immediately if, in fact, and fire our little buddy Hugh Jackson there? Monica in Allentown, back aboard. Haven't heard from her in a while. Monica, welcome. How are you today?
Doggy, I'm doing all right. How are you, sir?
Fine, Monica. Nice to talk to you again. What's on your mind now?
A couple things. I want to talk about the Steelers and Tomlin. I have to tell you, your callers are knocking out of the ballpark. All the points that they're making, they're stealing everything I have on my list. I have a couple questions because I honestly don't know what Mike Tomlin does. I really don't. I don't know what he's really responsible for. And you haven't mentioned, but remember Bradshaw made the reference to him as a cheerleader a couple years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little bit harsh, but what did you do the last 3 weeks? You sat all your starters against Cleveland. You didn't do anything for weeks. You know you're playing a team who whacked you at home, and you came in so ill-prepared. Every single play that Jacksonville ran was effective. I think, honestly, their best game of the year is the game they lost to the Patriots.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Look at their schedule.
Yep.
They have horrible wins. Close games. And throw Cleveland out the last game of the year. They didn't play their starters. They barely beat them when they played them before. The Colts, the Packers, the Lions, the Bengals, the Ravens. You're biting your fingernails off when you're watching this team play with all that talent. It's not acceptable. He's talking about playing New England 3 weeks before the game. Mike Mitchell's talking about this before Jacksonville. You got guys tweeting out that. People complaining about contracts and the tag that Bell was complaining about. They were so ill prepared. He showed such a lack of maturity. He sort of says all the right things, but doesn't back it up. And his players, you want to fear, you want to respect, you want to fear him, but he can't keep his team in line.
I think you're making very fair, and I think the close games against bad teams. Barely beat Green Bay, no Rodgers. Barely beat the Colts, obviously no luck. I think that's very fair. His best game may have been the Patriot game. And remember, if they would have beaten the Patriots, Jacksonville would have played at New England, and they would have gotten Tennessee. Which I thought about all week. No, nobody said anything about that prior to the game or prior to the divisional weekend, but I did consider it myself. Jacksonville is better than Tennessee, despite losing to Tennessee twice. Jacksonville is better than Tennessee. I think we all would have thought that going into the postseason. And, in fact, because they ended up as the 3, now nobody thought it was going to make a difference. We kind of put Jacksonville and Tennessee together. But as it turns out, Jacksonville is better than the Titans. And because they lost the New England game, a game they should have won, that's the team they ended up getting instead of getting the Titans, who went into Pittsburgh earlier in the year and got buried. So keep an eye on that, too. Rico in Rhode Island, Mad Dog Unleashed. Rico, good afternoon. How are you today? Yes, Rico, you're on Mad Dog Unleashed. How are you? Okay? All right, Rico's not there because Eddie is getting his I don't know what he's getting Left Coast Live ready. John in Alabama, he's aboard here on Mad Dog Unleashed. John, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm great, Doggy. How are you today?
Fine, John. Thank you. What's on your mind now? Let me hear.
So when I'm an Eagles fan, but when I watched that Steelers game and saw the onside kick, I have a different take than you did. To me, it brought back the worst memory of my life, which was the Super Bowl against the Patriots with a minute. The Eagles scored with a minute and 50 left to get within 3 points. They had the best defense in the league, 3 timeouts, and Andy Reid onside kicked. And the Patriots recovered. They ran 3 plays, gained no yards, and they punted. Eagles got the ball back with like 45 seconds left, but they got the ball back at their own 12-yard line. If you extrapolate that and go the other way, they kick deep. They stop them at the 20. They punted it. Now they get the ball back at the 40-yard line. They got to go 15 yards for Akers' kick to tie the Super Bowl. To me, with 3.5 minutes left and 3 timeouts, you kick it deep.
Well, it wasn't 3.5 minutes left. It wasn't. Let's get the time right. It was 2:12 left. And they had and they had. Hold on now, you got to get it right. If you're going to argue this, it was 2:12 left, and they had 2 timeouts plus a 2-minute warning.
Sorry, 2:12 plus a 2-minute warning. So go back to the Super Bowl, like I just told you, with a minute 50 left, they had 3 timeouts, and he did the onside kick, and instead of kicking it deep, the defense held for 3. I just think that with if you can stop the clock 3 times, you got to put the trust in your defense, especially when you're 1 for 19. On onside kicks in your entire career in Pittsburgh. I just think it was a bonehead.
I get it. I mean, I understand. Everybody seems to think that. I don't have a major problem with it, only because they had scored 42 points, or they had scored whatever they scored. You got to remember they scored one touchdown on defense, but they had moved the ball very easily all day against the Pittsburgh defense, and you do have to take that into the account. The idea that Pittsburgh automatically was going to get them off the field with a 3-and-out is a reach, and that's what people want you to think. Onside kick, 3-and-out, ball back, 145 down 7. Well, that's a reach. That really is a reach. What, Jacksonville can't get a first down? They've done nothing but get first downs in the fourth quarter, but now they're not going to get a first down. And I think the game wasn't 3-3, so you do have to keep that in mind. I think that people who are screaming about that onside kick thing are under the assumption that it was an easy 3-and-out. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Not that day. Sports by Steve Torrey is in the house today.
Hi, Chris. How